All students, please put your videos on and put your mics all on mute, please. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, Ashish sir. Good afternoon, everybody. We from GNI HMCS are glad you could join us today to discuss the National Education Policy 2020. I'd like to start this today's occasion by lighting of the auspicious digital lamp. I'm sharing my screen now. Just one sec. All right. I would like to welcome our CMD, the dynamic Sardar Navneet Singh Tuli, our MD, the very charismatic Mrs. Taranpreet Kaur Tuli, our constant supporters, Director GNES, Professor Kunal Padole, sir, Director and Principal GNIT, Dr. Sudhir Shelke, sir, Principal GNIET, Dr. Rajendra Bombe, sir, and our very own principal, Mrs. Sakshi Bhusari, our faculty members and students. I'd like to introduce to you all for today our keynote speaker, Dr. Ashish, Assistant Professor at Kavi Kulguru Kalidas Sanskrit University at the Faculty of Ancient Indian Sciences and Humanities. He has done his PhD from Rashtriya Sanskrit Vidyapeeth Tirupati. He has done his MPhil, MA, and MSc. He's published 6 research papers and has also authored a book of law. So welcome, sir. We're glad you could join us today. I'd now like to ask our principal, Mrs. Sakshi Bhusari, to please say a few
words. Very good afternoon, all of you. I'm very happy that we could organize this webinar on National Education Policy 2020. I would really like to thank Kavi Kulguru Kalidas Sanskrit University for giving us this opportunity. Actually, organizing the basic purpose of organizing this webinar is to make all of us aware about new education policy, and I'm sure it will strive us to another level, and we all will achieve our dreams in a better way. So once again, I would like to welcome you all, especially our guest speaker today, Dr. Ashish, our faculty members, Vishesh sir, Susan ma'am, and all other people who have joined, and especially our GNI family members, our students. So thank you so much. Over to you, Susan ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'd now like to give the baton over to Vishesh sir, so to continue and let us tell us a little bit about the National Education Policy. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Susan ma'am. Thank you, Principal ma'am, for carving us the way and path and showing us the way through towards the new education policy or the new national education policy. I would request all the students to please put your videos on so we could be interacting and we could be gauging if you're understanding what you're saying or not. It's the same old story, I guess. We're going to start with today's presentation. I'll try to make it pretty crisp. I would like to thank the college, by the way, and the university. And, I'm very happy that we are in sync with what the national policy is. We at Guru Nanak Education Society are a multidisciplinary. We have engineering colleges, management colleges, hospitality, and the works. And we are aiming to start and diversify further into various other genres. So if you could start off before, I think as we have the PPT in front of us. Welcome to the quick overview. I will.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, share again. Stop. Sorry for the early teething problems, so to speak. So as the PPT gets shared, what is a national policy for education? Who forms it? There is a separate committee which is set, and it's been happening just after 1 year after our independence in 1948, when the first committee was set up, and the latest committee was set up by Dr. K. Kasturirangan, which was set up and where the new education policy came out in 2019. So we're already 2 years down the line. Next slide, please. Now, for any policy to be implemented or when it comes to drafting a policy, it has to come with its own vision and what it aims to do. So primarily, this education policy has an Indian heart and has a global outlook. So it established that it has to be rooted in Indian ethos. It must provide education to all. It should be an inclusive policy. And it aims to get India to become a global knowledge power. The policy also aims to impart or start on and imbibe certain values in our students, like the sense of pride towards our country, awareness towards our individual roles towards a society, and how we can better ourselves and become truly global. Some new age concepts and such concepts which are actually as old as mankind, human rights for all, saving the environment, and developing new sustainable ways to live or conduct our day-to-day living, and the policy aims to have a true global outlook and an outreach. We move on to the next slide. The entire policy is actually broadly divided into 3 parts. First is where it focuses on school education. The second focuses on higher education. And then there is a third part which contributes or looks at some key other areas specifically. So if you could look at school education, primarily it focuses on basic literacy of numbers and language. So in a country like India, which is as big and as vast, there are a lot of us who are unfortunate, they don't even know how to spell their own names or count basic numbers. So early childhood is a foundation. That's what the policy focuses on. Ability to read and write and count numbers, as I spoke about. Also, our country historically and unfortunately has been known for its high dropout rates. Especially in villages and remote areas, people join a school maybe for midday meals, and over a period of time, they just drop out. So this policy understands the consequences of it and wants to highlight and give ways of how we could make sure that people don't drop out. So by making the curriculum more interesting, making the infrastructure better, etc. The policy looks at empowering the teachers and build a sense of community for them, have righteous practices where they get a career growth. The policy wants to be inclusive. It talks about including special educators, having facilities for the young or the special students. Also, one unique thing about the school education part of this policy is about making clusters. So in various remote areas, there could be one small school which has very few students, and then it doesn't get the kind of infrastructural boom that it's supposed to get. So this policy suggests that 2-3 schools nearby of maybe one big school and 3 small schools will together form an educational cluster. And then they'll share their resources, they'll share their research funding, they'll share a lot of ideas, and then lead to a better developed youth. Moving on to higher education. Before that, one basic new change, which is, I think everybody is aware of this, is one of the most talked about new changes was the 10+2 pattern that we used to follow. Now, this new education policy aims to follow a 2+3+3+4 policy. So, primary school would be age 3 to 5, class 3 to 5. Middle would be from 6 to 10, and 9 to 12 will be considered as secondary education. Post that, now we move on to higher education. So bring out your graduation caps. What's relevant to all of you who are attending today, you're soon going to be graduates, our final year students, our new first year students. I think this is now to focus. These are basic vision for the higher education. I'll just quickly run through this slide because I've discussed these things ahead. So maybe we can skip this slide. The institution or the higher education policy or the new education policy focuses on having institutional restructuring and a consolidation. So you have to restructure something which is already present, and then you consolidate things together so that there's better knowledge sharing. A big takeaway from this policy is its focus on being multidisciplinary. Now, there were a lot of taboos attached earlier where, oh, he's an art student, oh, he's a commerce student, oh, he's a science student. There would be 2 types of higher education, actually 3 types. First would be a research intensive university. Second would be a teaching intensive university. And third would be a type which we call as autonomous degree granting college, or the AC. The single streams higher education institutions like the erstwhile arts college or the erstwhile commerce college will be phased out eventually. Moving on. Another salient feature, apart from being a multidisciplinary, is about its holistic way of looking. So if you look at ancient Indian culture, maybe Bhanabhatta's Kadambari, it does, when we speak of ancient arts, we don't only be mistaken it for only dance and drama, but actually somebody as ancient as Bhanabhatta had actually included all aspects of life and considered it arts. That's our Indian ethos is. So it includes mathematics, it includes science, it included vocational subjects, professional subjects, etc. And that's what this policy aims to attempt and go forward. In fact, the policy suggests that it should integrate the humanities, so the arts, with arts and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and a STEM kind of a system would be formed. About degree, and this is again something which is very well advertised in the media. So I hope you students know. If we had more time, I would have actually quizzed you over this. So if you, the policy suggests there could be either 3-year degrees or 4-year degrees, and there should be many exit points. So if somebody has taken an admission in 3-year degree program, and after 1 year, they think that they want to do something else. So earlier, like before this policy came into being, they would be losing that year, and though they have gained knowledge, but there would be nothing to prove that by. So after this policy, after a year, you could walk out with a certificate. After 2 years, you could walk out with a diploma. And after 3 years, you could actually, of course, walk out with a degree. Though this policy says that there would be a bigger preference given to 4-year degrees. When it comes to master's degrees, researching or inculcating research ideologies is advised or is spoken of. The master's program could be either a 2-year program or a 1-year plus 1-year research program, or it could actually be a 5-year integrated program. So you join a college, give in your 5 years, gain knowledge, do some research, and walk out as a postgraduate. So a major focus that, of course, Dr. Ashish is going to speak about later is on research and innovation. Moving on, I hope while this week, our reforms, a quick recap. So earlier, there were different regulatory bodies. So for technical colleges, there was AICTE. For other colleges, there was UGC. Now, this policy suggests an integrated single regulator called as for higher education that it calls in. It calls in for public and private partnerships and same rules for both. So a private college and a government college would have to follow same rules, would have same policies, they would have common norms. Earlier, there were these inspections that used to happen from universities, and very often they were not, as transparent. So, online self-disclosure-based transparent system for approvals would be is suggested, and special education zones would be raised, and languages like Pali, Persian, Prakrit, Sanskrit, they would be focused on. Of course, in the other form, we have more of it. When we come after school and higher education, we look at other key areas of focus. We're going to look at all these in detail in the next slide. First is professional education. What this policy says is that professional education should not be only limited to theoretical part, but should include practical exposure and also industry exposure. So something like a combination of these paramount, and it especially focuses on agriculture, legal, healthcare, and technical education. And so something for us to highlight on, hotel management and catering technology also comes under professional education. And there's a big shout out given by this policy towards our job providing industry and how important it is in the larger scale of. Moving on to adult education and lifelong learning. This is something I guess Akshibam, me, Susan, we all keep saying that we keep learning every day from you, and you teach us at times, and there's no end of learning. It's especially true for those who are adults now and still don't know how to read or write or use basic arithmetic or numbers. For them, a focus is on their continuous learning. What it suggests is a very innovative way of including or incorporating the society's inputs and participation towards their education. So volunteering, community involvement, all these things are advertised and spoken of. Also, a specially designed curriculum for these people in different languages which they could understand is spoken of, and availability of books and other material for them to study. Moving on, the third focus area is, of course, the Indian knowledge system, language, culture, and values. As I spoke, this policy is very Indian at heart with a global outlook. Language speaks volumes about a certain country's values and culture. In fact, while we were talking about and we were learning, as I said, about national education policy, and we were aghast when we saw that in just last 2 years, some 250 Indian languages have died. And it's unfortunate. And there are so many oral languages which do not have a script in India, or there are some traditions which are not really documented, and they stand at a high risk of losing their value and losing their position. So this policy very innovatively focuses on these languages. It aims to start special universities called as colleges or higher education institutes called as Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation. It speaks of having known artists. So in a place like Vidarbha or Nagpur, Mr. L. Kunchwar is one of the famous English playwrights. Maybe he could be a star of a writer, a wealth of knowledge. Maybe he could be incorporated to come and teach the students who are learning humanities or even hotel management for that matter, being multidisciplinary. So to involve these stalwarts from the industry and have them as master instructors or artists in residence, as is what they've spoken of. Again, as I said, special focus on languages like Sanskrit, Persian, Prakrit, Pali, which are classical languages. It also aims to include international languages like Japanese, Korean, French, German, and proposes to have a 3-language module where each student becomes multilingual. That's something we should be very proud of, the fact that we are multilingual people. Moving on, the use of technology, of course, nothing, India is known to export its technological know-how, but this policy speaks of making this technology available to the most disadvantaged people. It should be Divyang friendly, so those people who can't perhaps, there should be technological advancement for those who can't hear, who can't see perhaps. There could be e-content on regional languages. For a lot of people, even something as big as an MNC like Google is understanding the importance of local languages, where it has, Google Marathi and Telugu and Tamil, where you could search in your own mother tongue. So this policy, of course, understands that. Virtual labs, National Education Technology Forum would be set up, which would equip and help people like you and me, students, teachers, and also those who are in the most remote of the areas, most disadvantaged, and other minorities. As we come to the end, we are here to talk about what's happened after COVID. We are right now in virtual space. Of course, COVID has taught us how to conduct ourselves online, newer dynamics, and this policy, of course, acknowledges that and speaks about looking a very pragmatic look at technology, looking at its positives and negatives, addressing the digital divide. So those who are in remote areas who perhaps don't have access to internet, this policy proposes to advance the radio and television education shows to reach the masses. Digital repository should be built, and not just a very upward down attitude, but also about the regional languages with a regional flavor and blended modes of training. That's what we're doing nowadays, where we have some people live here, some people online here, and that's what this policy aims to further inculcate. I think with this, I hope you are still awake, and I hope you are kind of got an overview about what this national education policy is. With this, I'll end my breathless monologue, and thank you for your patience and listening us. If I could request Dr. Ashish to now please take the center stage and enlighten us about what importance this policy gives on research and innovation. So up to you, Dr. Ashish. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to thank our Vishesh Joshi sir who contacted me, and then Susan ma'am who inaugurated this program, and then our principal ma'am, Sakshi Busari ma'am, and all the other faculty members and the students of Guru Nanak Institute of Hotel Management. Today we are here to speak about NEP, and Vishesh sir, you didn't leave any point from your NEP. You have covered almost each and every point from the NEP, and you have summarized it. And it had become little bit challenging for me. So I'm today going to focus only on the research and the higher education, because you are graduate students. So we are going to focus on higher education. First of all, let us understand what is the need, why this education policy is necessary for us. So we find that I personally felt that three major problem I have chosen, because the policy is speaking about many problem and the many solutions, but let us focus on which is related to us. The first one is our higher education ecosystem is divided into several parts. Like we have divided ourselves. Humanity is different, commerce is different, and science is different. Always generally people used to say, oh, you commerce, and you somewhere we arts, oh, you are from arts, isn't it? The arts people are always treated as the second class, and science people are always treated as first class. Somewhere we have this mentality, so we have divided like this. And then we have a rigid separation of disciplines into narrow areas. Like when we choose humanities once, we cannot go to the science, we cannot move to the science, and the science, like we have commerce, we cannot move to the other stream. So somewhere we have become narrow in our education all these days, and these problems. And one another problem which is mentioned here is less importance is given to the cognitive skills and learning outcomes. So this lack of skill and the outcomes which should be actually, which is expected in the education, what is happening? We are becoming a people who we are asked to memorize and reproduce it in the answer sheet, which is not an actual thing which is expected for a real education. The real education, the NEP have given us a very big hope. Like maybe this is the thing we were expecting for all these days, and we were speaking about it, and today it is in front of us. So it is you and we, it means all the students and the teachers who together have to do this success, make it success, because governments can always bring the policies, and of course there is positive things and negative things in every policies, but we have to work on it together and we have to sort it out. And today, like our Vishesh sir has told in the earlier, like the Banabhatta's Kadambari, which they speak about the 64 arts, where they never divide the arts. It doesn't mean that painting and music alone, they have in 64 arts, they speak about cooking and how to cut the vegetables, in which shape you're going to cut, that is also an art. How to cut the leaf, that is also an art. But not only this, they also speak about the medicine, they also speak about music and other things which comes under the art. So these things should be like the division should be removed. First of all, the education should be all together one. If I'm from a Sanskrit stream, then I have somewhere interest in music, then I should like my mainstream would be Sanskrit and my substream would be music. Okay, if I'm from the other stream, I can choose another stream as a substream. We need this, like now this education system had given a way where a science student can enter into art, and art student can enter into commerce, and commerce into science. Like that, we can shuffle ourselves. As sir already spoke about the year, how it is divided. So I'm not going to be in detail of all that things, but flexible curricular structure here. Till these days, what happened? Only universities decide what colleges should teach, and colleges go with that. Most of the time it happens with most of the colleges. Many colleges are not even have much time to decide what their student want to read or what that particular set of students are expecting. That was not. Now the curriculum is made more flexible. Now it will be like students and we in a group, we can decide already. Of course, in the board of councils, generally a student also will attend the board of council when the curriculum is designed, so he or she can say what they need in actual. So this thing will be for focus now, because all these days university level were doing this, but now it is given even to the power is given to the colleges, so they can decide for their students now. And then in the universities, of course, the 3-year degree program will be 4 years, but the one thing is very beautiful. If I want to leave the degree in the first year, then it will be considered as the certificate program. It will be till these days. What happened if I didn't complete the 3 years? The whole even if I completed the 2 years and I could not, from my economical reason or the family problem, I could not continue the program, then it will be given as discontinued, and my 2 years also doesn't have any value. But now in this policy, this is changed. If I complete the 1 year, then it is the certificate program. 2 years, it is advanced diploma, and 3 years, bachelor's degree. Yes, today also we are getting the bachelor degree in the 3 years, so there is nothing change in that. But what is the 4th year? It is bachelor degree with research, which is more important. Till these days, research is not given priority at all. Even I used to say to my students, in the bachelor's degree and master degree, you focus on your academics, and when you enter into the MPhil and PhD, you focus on the research. Because even I was somewhere in the stereotype, but this national education policy had changed that. They are focusing more on research. Okay, now 4 years in this. Okay, if we did 4 years in the bachelor degrees, then no problem. We can directly do 1 year in the master degree, and we can go for the PhD. Even the MPhil was removed now, and somewhere I feel it is made more simple. And they have promised to spend 6% of GDP in this national education policy. Let us see how government is doing that, but that is not our problem. We can concentrate on the useful part which we are getting in. So now we are we can, as I told you, that we have the MPhil program have removed now. The curriculum must be, interesting and relevant and updated regularly. This thing, it should be updated regularly. Every year it should be revised. If a student had complained that sir, this thing is not interesting, sir, this part should be changed because it is not much useful, then it will be opportunity for each and every college institution to think about it. Each and every word of a student or the opinion is considered in this new policy. And occasional education, this is given more important, where I see oh, you're from electrical, oh, that's plumbing, isn't it? Even sometimes in our family also, they used to say, if you're not studying properly, then you have to go for this course, this work only. Such type, somewhere the works were degraded. We somewhere rooted with this mentality that these works are low type works and white collar works only, that are good works. Now this thing is removed. How they are working on this is they are introducing these types of courses, the plumbing, it could be electronics, or it could be carpentry, or even the web designer, whatever it is. So they are introducing all this coding and all from this primary level, from the 6th standard in the school. And even in the colleges, we can opt to one subject on this. By that, we can have the deep knowledge on this. Earlier, it was like only ITI, our industrial training institutes alone, they alone offer this type of courses. But now every universities and colleges are going to focus on this. And then the bachelor, and they also said that every bachelor degree program, one paper they can opt for the occasional course too. So the big problem which we find in India is the research. Research is given the least importance somewhere, and we always think that, okay, research is not for us, it is only which is given in the text, we are going to only read that and we have to reproduce this, nothing to think more in it, because it is not our duty to think. So that mentality is removed, trying to be removed in this. They are trying to improve the quality of research in India. They are concentrating on foreign collaborations with the universities, and beginning new schools which will concentrate on from this school level. They are concentrating on these type of cognitive thinking and creative thinking things, or given more importance in the school, not only the memorizing part. These things will be identified hereafter, and even in the schools and the colleges, students will be identified as where he or she is interested and where he or she is doing well, and they will be encouraged to go in that stream, which we used to watch in the Three Idiots movie. He wants to become the photographer. Now this will not happen. If a student want to become the photographer expert, then he would be encouraged in that. So only then, because research is not something we go and sit and invent like anything. We have to only invent the electric bulb, and only then we will be considered as research. Nothing. We can research in every part. Even if we find any if we find any new recipes for my mother, she is also a researcher, and then even we are getting the old back things. For example, when I make a research, I generally concentrate on the physics and the old text, like Surya Siddhanta texts, which they are astronomical texts, which they are speaking on that. And then most of the papers I try to write over it. Like these knowledges were already there, and how they were advanced from us, and what are the things still to be invented, which were not yet proved. And we open that and we say these things are already explained, where our modern people have never reached on these things. Even in the cooking, we know that the Nalapaka, the text, the old texts are still available, and that we can focus on all these things. So till today, colleges were taught that they are only just supposed to focus on the academics which they are teaching, and universities will focus on the research. Now this idea is removed, and every institution will focus on the research, and research will be encouraged, and they will be found. Like National Research Foundation will be a center which will be monitoring all the research, and they will be encouraging the new research ideas. And also I have taken 2 minutes extra from the given time. And thank you for the Guru Nanak Institute of Hotel Management group for giving me such an opportunity to meet you all through web online. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I would now like to ask Vishesh sir for the vote of thanks, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish. I think we try to fill and squeeze in as much as we could in these 40 minutes. I hope it was enjoyable and knowledgeable, and people will walk away with in-depth knowledge about higher education changes and about research and about the new education policy. I would like to give my sincere vote of thanks to Dr. Ashish for sparing the time and his expertise and enlightening students and us alike. As we said, it's forever learning. Would like to especially thank our principal, Mrs. Sakshi Dosari ma'am, for always being such an open book and such an encouraging leader and inspiration. Thank you, Susan ma'am, for conducting this program so well. Thank you, Puri sir, for all his love and thank you to all his new dear students for attending. Special thanks to those who are putting the video on. And it's a little pet peeve of our students, of our teachers, that at the moment videos are on, trust me, you all make a mental note saying, this thing. So thank you everyone for coming up.
Yes.
And I hope to see you all again. Dakshina.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish. Thank you so much. It was really
Thank you
informative.
for this opportunity,
Thank
ma'am.
you so
Thank you
much.
very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.